Nyonji Chimor Zodan Yume Jang, Zoner Monum Jimbor Nagyada, Bakar Dargon Zanto, Shirmurdo, Stumbatik Jejan La Jonzorlo, Nijaror Zerni Jangamsa, Jawr Tikishan La Elan, Jime Panzo Jala Suranda, Kongi Toban Power Shinjilo, Kongi Toban Power Shinjilo, Kongi Toban Power Shinjilo. Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta.
Kanda yangpa maung jiktenji zame olandar gyarik tang tramze rig tang kyamdag tang gevnyin la sokpi mar nam tang zhanyang rig tang ri tatat pi mar nam laksar ta vagam vamo kanjik ziba na zhak dangi nang tab samgi mi chi pi mdor den danyan flak sham shang chup san wa sayi nyang bum chan jo te chak chig gang wa na khsar da kepi vagam vamo kanjik sonam Sunum Mayim Baledang Danyang, Dedagle Yongs Jorun Girnev, Devaran Tsojang, Tseyang Peron Giro. Gatsu Sunum Dang Dambi, Ver, Tiena Tele Kyang, Devaran Tsojang, Tseyang Peron Giro, Gunda Yamba, Maung Jiktingi, Semchin Namar, Da Shung Joko, Tsek Chigdang, Tsep Gyatang, Tsep Jirjadang, Tsep Jorngadang, Tsep Jorgyatang, Tse Nyersumdang, Tse Nyerjadang, Tse Nyergyatang, Tse Nyergar Nam, Nyergane, Tse Simchi Vata, Nyerev Jandar, Digbal Lernam, Deva Tiji, Shava Yenbe, Nyen Tetak La, Leki, Yanjit, Nyetan Shipa, Lon Zawang Langa, Semchin Namgi, Gunlong, Gumshut Tamchit, Le Mayemba, Digba Mayemba, Medna, Kung Dundut, Semjin Sopa, Mashinba, Lemba, Dupe Lobra, Yemba, Zender Mavar Namki, Digber Namjan, Shmo Magoso, Tina, Tichin Yin Chubo, Tetak Nams, Sanji, Shanchu Sanhua, Damba Gung, Kurzim, Dan, Nemdund, Tsarchi Lagna, Shar Lo, Nov, Shang. Rene, Hotsad, Yachak, Nangdan, Jigba Tamchit, Yons, Jeveran, Euro, Dorde, Do Lob, Kim, Gangjun, Tamchit Kyang, Darta, Maung, Lo, Yapchak, Nams, Ansung, Neston, Manjuro, Tichingi, Nimchupo, Teta Nams, Nyenrevision, Dorde, Sarchik, Lagna, Kim Teta Kyang, Namda Yang, Timayim bin Chevada, Timayim bin Narnam, Jor, Manjuro. Jean Z dans Kubosum Soba dans Dambarin Gero, Posum Soba Dambarin Gero, Posum Soba Dambarin Gero. Tina Gunda Yamba, Shanchu Sanhua Sai Nyambo la Tirter, Zimchir Stop dans Payon Jutme par Gartom Chapsheva Chagya Dana, Steve Chimbondonon, Zang Longa, Semchin Namlagan, Li Kim, Jera Kabarjan Yope, Semchin Ganjik, Shanchu Sanhua Sai Nyambondi. San Tuba, Shanchu Senhui, Kurzim Jarvani, Zong, Tanam Durdin, the Yingzh, Simam, Yingzh, Ringagam, Yana Tsik Gam, Yana Tsik Tuber Gernati, Sender, Deapasam Sobadan, Danjang, Maun Jiktin to Yang, Serv Gyapchak, Tonchak, Chipchak Namsa, Zikshit Pasam Sober and Gervatan, Rigzambu, Kemder Kever and Gero. Di Seb Shanchu Sanwa Gunda Yambe, Devjan Shirba, Shanchu Sanwa Sai Nyambu Yondun, Lavngabar Jopa, Tamcha Tuni, Bimu Yebel Hanga Sala, Signe Tarmo Jarjan, Flarian, Jordan de Landerkata Sora, Zumbab Jordan de Dokachi Tomani, Steve Chimbo, Deep Samgi Mekipir, Zumchir Stoptan, Damjadan, Smulum Gi, Stober Nam Shizanya, Maung Semjin Namgi, Maung Semjin Namgi, Di Payon Shibi, Flatter, Lariam, Jordan de la Chet, Tiba Yin Lab, the Chirki Jump, Jordan de Chirk, the Somba Janda, Tester, the Zong Shao, Jordan de Dordin di Mangla Chirkat Sha, the Chirka Chester Pero Sha, Jordan de Kikunda Yambala, Kapsarte, Dordin di Mangla Sim Sharte, Sai Nyambus Tower Molumgi. Molum Jivshavim Dodan, Sai Nyambos, Savi Shupi Molum, Savi Shupa Jivshavi Dodan, Sai Nyambos, Savi Tamji Stopkim Do Jivshago, Shanchu Sanhui, De Shanchu Sanhuan Di, Karachi, Mambone, Sim Jachimbo Kete, Semchin Namla Pambaram Zanna, Kijak, 디 특기드 비전드 돈더니 용서 페르 샤오 상주선과 건더 양베 데르크트 투네 기베 타르모 저정 시험산네 송 사이년 버서 모놈기 도레 대전 서베 ngabab주 벌레가 데 trực 바고
There is one more thing. These few days I have not been meeting guests. Please understand, because of various reasons. Now, if there are some unfavorable conditions, it's best to listen to the teachings and read books. This way, some issues and troubles can be solved. Next, let's look at the chapter, The Praise of the Tathagata. In this chapter, The Praise of the Tathagata, as we mentioned before, the main questioner in this chapter is Bodhisattva universally vast. Bodhisattva universally vast asked Buddha Shakyamuni, "You have already praised the merit and qualities of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Why does he possess such inconceivable merit? Please explain this reason to us." So the Buddha told Bodhisattva, universally vast, about the many merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Therefore, during this time when we are all studying the Ksitigarbha Sutra, I believe some people should have faith in it. If you have faith, you should be able to understand the merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and it will be especially easy for you to accept. If you don't have faith, indeed, this sutra, Buddhist scriptures in general, for people without faith, I'm afraid it is truly difficult to accept. Actually, it's not only Buddhism. This includes any worldly knowledge we have, whether it's philosophy or science or even geography, physics, and chemistry. If you have no interest in it, you won't gain anything. What we call faith is actually interest. Whether you have interest in this Dharma practice is very important. Here, we often also share some stories selected from rather reliable records of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's efficacy, individual stories excerpted from them. These kinds of stories, I believe most people should be able to understand, because some stories, although they are stories, in the actual plot of such stories, you can find your own reflection. At the same time, you can also find the inconceivable blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. So teaching this sutra through stories is very important. I have also done this before for you all. When I was teaching the Diamond Sutra, I also shared stories. When I first came here in 1985, at that time, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche taught the adornment of the middle way and then went to other places to spread the Dharma. At that time, we at Larungar had about a few dozen people. At that time, there was a Khenpo. He is still alive now. He should be in his 80s or 90s. There was an old Khenpo named Khenpo Gendun Norbu. Every day, he taught us the Uttara Tantra Shastra and the compendium of Abhidharma and other texts. While teaching each day, he would sometimes share stories about Asanga and Maitreya Bodhisattvas, things he had seen and heard about them. So when I was teaching the Lotus Sutra before, including when we taught the Diamond Sutra, I would sometimes share some stories with everyone. Actually, these stories, for most of us, are probably very beneficial, of course, for very few individuals, including those who have received Western education. Generally speaking, as stories, they're not particularly interested in them. A few individuals, not all people, because for them, most of the stories are about this present life, stories from this current lifetime. Stories about past lives are relatively fewer. I have also listened to lectures by some teachers and high-level figures, but they will talk about things like my father, my mother, my friend, my wife, my husband. They use stories or facts from real life to explain their viewpoints. So regardless, rational viewpoints are also very important. But the emotional approach, especially using examples that can generate pure faith to illustrate points, is also very important. Today, I also want to share another story about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. In the past, there was a person who had faith in the three jewels. He was very devout and regularly made offerings to the three jewels. Later, his wife died due to complications during childbirth. After she died, he was extremely sorrowful. So he performed some rituals for the deceased and accumulated merit through Buddhist practices. Later, he made the aspiration to create a life-size statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, a statue equal in height to his wife. Then he continued to make offerings and pay homage to it. One day in his dream there appeared a celestial maiden wearing beautiful heavenly garments standing before him. She said, "I am your wife. because you created a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, I have now taken rebirth in the heavenly realm. But let me tell you the reason why I died in childbirth. The reason is this. In my past life, I also became someone's wife. At that time, her husband and she had no children. Later, she found a way to have her husband take a concubine. Later, the concubine became pregnant. After she became pregnant, jealousy arose in her heart. Now I'm switching between saying he and I. I might be getting a bit confused. She said, I became very jealous, and then I started to worry in my heart, thinking that he might not love me anymore in the future, especially after she gave birth to a child. It seemed like my husband loved her even more. For this reason, I couldn't accept it, and so I began to use poison. I killed the concubine and her unborn child because she was pregnant. In this way, I killed them both. After this, due to the karmic retribution, I spent 6 kalpas in the incessant hell, experiencing the suffering of the incessant hell for 6 kalpas. Later, with great difficulty, I was reborn in the human realm, but after being reborn in the human realm, I died in childbirth 57 times. Because of this, I continuously experienced suffering. This time, because of the merit you gained by creating the Ksitigarbha statue, all my past negative karma has been completely purified. After it was purified, I was reborn in the heavenly realm. Perhaps after I am reborn as a celestial maiden once more, I will never again need to take rebirth in a female body. She was also very grateful to him. She said, in our heavenly realm, there is a hall of virtue. In this hall of virtue, on the 24th day of each month, countless emanations of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva from worlds in the 10 directions, appearing in the monastic form with a golden complexion, begin to transmit various wondrous Dharma teachings to us. Then we eliminate wrong views and suffering and obtain happiness, and so forth. She spoke about her experience of hearing the Dharma in the heavenly realm. After this, her husband woke up from the dream. After waking up, he was overwhelmed with mixed feelings of sorrow and joy and was deeply moved. From this, we can also see that some people create karma, and because of one negative deed, they suffer tremendously for many lifetimes throughout countless eons. But later, because they created a statue of Ksitigarbha, they also obtained temporary liberation in the human and heavenly realms. The other day, for everyone who is staying here at Larangar, for everyone else, there's no way. But also, I ordered some relatively small Ksitigarbha statues online. When the time comes, we'll distribute them to those who are attending the teachings in person. What I mean by in person is anyone who is here. At that time, it's possible. But generally, these things are very simple to find online. For other listeners, you can also, through different means, order some statues or tankas of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, or even now, download from the internet. You can make copies, photocopies, or color prints. Because in the past, indeed, to get one statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva might have been very difficult. But now it's different. So if you don't have faith in this, then there's no need to say more. If you truly have faith, or if you have confidence in this, perhaps in your home shrine or among your representations of the 3 jewels, having a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, it has an inconceivable power of dependent arising. This kind of karmic connection is very difficult to describe with our ordinary words. I think you should understand the principle of dependent arising and emptiness, and this merit, you should understand it, especially the 24th day. In many stories, it is said that on the 24th day of each month, today should be the 24th day of the Tibetan calendar. Generally, for many of our calendars, whether it's the lunar calendar or the Tibetan calendar, there is something special about them. Including the Tibetan calendar or the I Ching, many are connected with rather special dependent arising. In a story mentioned earlier, it also says that on the 24th of each month, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has a particularly special manifestation for liberating sentient beings. Just like Guru Padmasambhava, on the 10th day of each month, he has special emanations that manifest to sentient beings. On that day, the blessings are also more responsive. Everyone should also know about this point. Next, let's look at the main text. Furthermore, Buddha Shakyamuni told Universally Vast, if in future ages there are people of lower status and similar people. What are people of lower status? For example, servants, maids, and people without freedom. There are quite a lot of people without freedom. For instance, people in prisons or people controlled by others. They don't have personal freedom. They have no liberty. Whether it's speaking or doing things, many people are already controlled by others. These kinds of people, people without freedom, if they have no freedom in this entire world, it is very painful. In one Buddhist sutra, how does it say? All forms of control are suffering, all forms of freedom are happiness. The Buddhist Sutra also says this. So if you are not controlled by others, this should be the greatest kind of happiness. If you are controlled by others, even if it's by your parents, your spouse, your siblings, or your teachers, this kind of control is still not having freedom is painful. Of course, what some people call not having freedom, they truly feel in their hearts that they have no freedom, but actually it's not that serious. For example, rather strict parents. Under their care, some children might feel they have no freedom and are in pain, but actually for them, it is also necessary. Some students of teachers who manage rather strictly, on the surface it might also seem very painful, but actually this kind of management and control is also necessary for their lives. Also, whether we are monastics or lay practitioners, when keeping precepts, some people may not be able to do whatever they want. When doing things, you can't just do whatever you think. It's not like that. But actually, this kind of control or limitation is not called a lack of freedom. Rather, it should be within reasonable regulations that provide a lawful track for one's life. This is possible because nowadays some people say, I want freedom. It seems like they don't need anything, don't even need legal restrictions. I want freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want. If I want personal freedom, I can recklessly do whatever I think. Actually, this is also not right. Therefore, the measure of so-called freedom should also be under the premise of what is reasonable, rational, and lawful. Then you can speak of freedom. Of course, there are some we can feel. Truly, people confined in prisons, no matter how you explain it, indeed, their personal freedom has been restricted, or a person's body may be free, but their mind is constantly bound by Mara or entangled by all kinds of suffering. This can also be said to be lacking freedom. Actually, not having freedom should also be a very great suffering for sentient beings. As for the reasons for not having freedom, some sutras mention 5 aspects. In past lives, being extremely arrogant and looking down on others, extremely arrogant, this is one. Also, having a particularly stubborn character that's difficult to tame, such people will also lack freedom in the future. Also, being rather indulgent and not respecting the 3 jewels, and this is the 3rd one. The 4th is casually stealing and committing theft, and the last one is not repaying debts. Some people borrow money and in the end don't repay their debts. These 5 causes and conditions will cause one to become a person without freedom in this life, a lowly person, an inferior person, a person of low status. If in the future there are some people without freedom, lowly people, if they themselves realize it's due to past karma, they won't blame everyone but themselves. Why don't I have freedom, and complain about everything and everyone? These people truly don't understand karma, because in this present life, if you're not good looking or don't have power, don't have wealth, or don't have status, and don't have anything you want, actually, this has a certain relationship with your past lives. At this time, if you are a wise person, you'll think, in this present life, I'm not as good as others. My power, status, and wealth, even when I try to do things, everything goes wrong. Others can do things well. Why can't I do well? In this case, you know it's due to your past karma, and so you should repent well. For those who repent in this way, what is the method? They should sincerely gaze upon and pay homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image. It's not just superficially, just going through the motions. It's not like that. It should be with complete sincerity. Actually, repentance is the same way. Circumambulation, prostrations, doing any virtuous deed, having a sincere heart is very important. With a sincere heart, pay homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for 1 to 7 days and recite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name. If you can recite it a full 10,000 times, such a person, after their present karmic effect is exhausted for thousands and tens of thousands of lives, will always be born in noble families. From then on, they will never again need to fall into the suffering of the 3 lower realms, because the blessing of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name is inconceivable, and paying homage to his image is also inconceivable. The Sutra of the 10 Wheels of Ksitigarbha also says, to chant in one day the name of Ksitigarbha, the merit and great renown surpass chanting in countless kalpas the names of other enlightened beings. If in a single day we recite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, then this merit is extremely, extremely great. What does this merit surpass? It surpasses reciting the names of other bodhisattvas bodhisattvas throughout countless kalpas. The Sutra of the 10 Wheels of Ksitigarbha also speaks about this. For example, in terms of fulfilling the wishes of sentient beings, Ksitigarbha bodhisattva far surpasses bodhisattvas like Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara, including great bodhisattvas like Samantabhadra. As for this principle, Jumifam Rinpoche also spoke about it in his praise to Ksitigarbha. So if you recite with particular sincerity, if reciting for one day has such great merit, then reciting Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name for 7 days is even more inconceivable. And reciting a full 10,000 times is even more inconceivable. So when we recite, we can either chant Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, you can recite it this way, or we can recite according to the Tibetan recitation. We haven't recited it today, right? Then why don't we recite it together now?
Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. Shangju senhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sham tsanon chodor kyosum chi. O sayi nyambo juji tukye dam zabar monom jenze nibi lame ishi jemzhi jenja tenja konur dangson gyur sho.
Reciting 10,000 times like this. In Buddhist sutras, there are also such cases. For example, reciting a full 10,000 times. Sometimes we recite 100,000 times or 10,000 times. These fixed numbers are also very important because nowadays some people have very heavy discriminative thinking. Just like what I said the other day, for example, when scientists state some number, they don't develop wrong views about it. For instance, a medicine, take it 3 times a day. They won't say, why not take it 4 times a day? If you say, take 3 pills a day, why not take 4 pills a day? This is a basic concept in medicine. In our Buddhism, for example, reciting for 7 days or reciting 10,000 times or 21 times. Why is it like this? So sometimes, similarly, there are fixed numbers, and you're similarly not a professional, but for some things you don't have doubts, while for others you have doubts. This is related to your own faith and education from childhood. In the end, it's all related to faith and education. Why do I say this? Because if from childhood you grew up in a Buddhist family, they probably wouldn't, whatever the Buddhist sutras say, they would truly believe it's that way. But conversely, if they don't particularly understand science or don't understand modern medicine, they might ask their parents, yeah, why is it like this? What I just mentioned, they might ask in reverse. So sometimes people's doubts and discriminative thinking from a certain perspective are related to one's circumstances, education, and parents' teachings, and even the entire environment and culture one is in. All of these have a certain relationship. Therefore, when we see some people without faith even generating slanderous thoughts, we should be understanding. It's excusable. If they had grown up in a rather specific environment, they wouldn't be as you imagine. There should be some changes. So here we are also saying this. If there are some people without freedom, they should repent well, and they will never again fall into the lower realms. Having recited Ksitigarbha's name 10,000 times, so we also think that everyone's human existence is very difficult to obtain. If you have the opportunity, you should recite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name. It's best to recite it in Tibetan, the one we just recited. Recite it 10,000 times. If that's really not possible, the shorter one, Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, 10,000 times of this shouldn't be very difficult. This kind of recitation is still very important. In the past, in the record of sages who have taken rebirth into the Sukhavati, there was, probably during the Song dynasty, there was a monastic who broke his precepts. After breaking his precepts, he was extremely, extremely sorrowful. He felt that he would definitely fall into hell. So he spent 3 days and nights neither eating nor drinking, reciting the Buddha's name. Later, Buddha Amitabha personally appeared before him. He said, originally you were going to fall into hell, but because you recited the Buddha's name with a sincere heart, for this reason, your negative karma has been purified, and your lifespan has also been extended. After 10 years, you can be reborn in the Pure Land. Buddha Amitabha said he could come to guide you, but this person said, no, that won't do. Having seen Buddha Amitabha, I can't stay for another 10 years. If it's another 10 years, I'm a very bad person. Living in this world, I have no confidence. By that time, I might still not be able to go to the Pure Land. I hope you can come for me as soon as possible. It's said that after 3 days, he was still reborn in the Pure Land. There is such a story. So our sincere hearts can also move all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or dispel our own karmic obstacles. This also depends on repenting with an especially devout heart. This is very important. What was discussed earlier, paying homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image, or the merit of reciting Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, in future lives, life after life, you will be reborn in wealthy and noble families in this world, or you won't fall into the 3 lower realms. Next it says, furthermore universally vast, if in the future in Jambudvipa, if there are members of the Kshatriya caste, like kings and these noble castes, and also the Brahmin caste, elders, lay people, and all people, and also various different castes and ethnicities. Among these, some people may have newborn children. Regardless of what caste they belong to, you see, here there are all kinds of people. If they have a newborn child, whether male or female, if within 7 days for these newborn children they recite the inconceivable Ksitigarbha Sutra and also recite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name for them, if they complete 10,000 recitations, what will be the result for these newborn children, whether male or female, if they have the ripening of past negative karma, if they created negative karma in past lives? This child specifically came to collect debts because of reciting the Ksitigarbha Sutra, because of reciting Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name. They will gain liberation, and moreover, they will be peaceful, happy, and easy to raise. This child will also be especially happy and never cry. Yesterday, one of my relatives brought his own child and came to my house. He just kept talking about his story. I was quite busy and didn't have time. He said, this child is so adorable. At night, he never cries. He really loves to smile. It seems like it's none of my business either, whether he smiles or cries. What does it have to do with me? But as parents, it seems like in this world, they really value this matter. I just said superficially, oh, doesn't cry. Very good, very good. But he himself kept telling me, he's so special. He's always like this and that. His name is such and such, blah, blah, blah. He kept telling his own story. So in this case of never crying and being very easy to raise, the lifespan is also quite long in worldly terms. This is one type. Among children, if you recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra for them, originally their lifespan might be short, they might have illnesses, be difficult to raise, and have all kinds of problems. But later, because of the blessing of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it will be like this. If they were born bearing merit and virtue, if this child's past life merit was especially good, they should have especially deep virtuous roots. Such a child, if we recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra and recited Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, they will be even more joyful, even easier to raise, even more peaceful, and their lifespan will also be even more abundant and longer. In this context, actually, this Ksitigarbha Sutra, I suppose we can say this, what we originally called living Buddhism. Not only should we understand the very profound meaning of the Dharma, but more importantly, how do we live in this world? For example, regarding sick people or disadvantaged groups or the education of children, how to handle these matters. Because in this chapter, right now we are discussing here what to do when a baby is born. If you perform virtuous deeds for them using Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, what kind of merit will there be? Just before, regarding lowly people, people of low status, people without freedom, including sentient beings in prisons, how should we treat them? And further above, we also discussed yesterday about nightmares, what to do about them. Many of us often have nightmares too. This is also something people are very concerned about. Have any of you had nightmares recently? So if you have nightmares, there are also methods. And earlier, if you're weary of the female body, what to do? In this chapter, many situations in daily life are discussed. These are all things that worldly people are also very concerned about. Indeed, in our lives, didn't we talk before about some people who can neither die nor live, that kind of situation? Those pitiable ones who are bedridden long-term due to illness and so on. These rely on the blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Now, some of us are very satisfied with our lives, with our circumstances, with our appearance, our power and wealth. We're very, very satisfied. Now is my best time, my happiest time. Wow, this is truly the blessings of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the blessings of my precious Guru. I'm so, so happy now. I truly don't know how to express it in words. Some are very satisfied with themselves. For such people, we also hope their happiness flourishes continuously and uninterruptedly. But some people are dissatisfied with everything about themselves, dissatisfied with the people around them, dissatisfied with their own bodies when they look in the mirror, dissatisfied with their appearance. Even when others cook food, they're dissatisfied with the dishes. Anyway, everything is, the other day in Transforming Suffering and Happiness into Enlightenment, it says, all appearances arise as enemies. All that manifests becomes enemies. Enemies are unpleasant and disagreeable. Everything you see and hear is all, just like when we talked about the incessant hell the other day. In the incessant hell, all the objects of the 6 sense faculties are all evil. Evil forms, evil sounds, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, all have the word evil in front of them. So in this case, actually, now their karma may have already ripened. Even Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has some difficulty. You think, I'm so ugly, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, quickly turn me into someone good looking. Truly, when karma has ripened, when sentient beings' karma has ripened, even the Buddha's skillful means are powerless. There is such a saying. But in the future, as long as we pray devoutly, planting these seeds is possible. So here it also discusses what? It discusses what to do if a child is born. Everyone's traditions are different. Looking at the practices of many people in the Han regions now, it seems that after a child is born, they immediately hold party for the child, collect red envelopes, and kill animals for big meals. In India in the past, they would perform different virtuous deeds. In Tibetan areas, they would immediately go to the monastery to find some great masters and monastics to give the child a rather auspicious name, and then recite some sutras and immediately perform some virtuous deeds. Of course, not all Tibetan people do this nowadays. Now, some of the younger generation don't care much about these things either. But regardless, this dependent arising is inconceivable. So as parents for their newborn children, they should have something rather virtuous, create a virtuous atmosphere. This is very important. In Confucianism and Buddhism, basically, in modern language, we call it prenatal education. In the past, they didn't directly say prenatal education, but the content of that kind of prenatal education was still there. From the day you become pregnant, if parents meditate and perform virtuous deeds, and if you live in a very pure environment, then after birth as well, your mental state will be completely different from before. If you grew up in fighting, or in a particularly terrifying environment, or were born in such an environment, your mental state will be completely different too. Now, some children have particularly bad tempers. Everyone says it's because when they were young, their parents' relationship wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. There are all kinds of explanations. Actually, this is not without reason. A person's development is closely related to the environment. Why was Mencius' mother so concerned about the environment of his growth? There was also a reason. So here it says that if there are some Buddhists or non-Buddhists, when they see that a family has had a child, giving red envelopes is also very important, but what is more important? What's more important is to recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra for them. They may not accept this very much. Reciting sutras, no need, just give me such and such. It seems that nowadays people don't give anything to each other either. Now, the emotional connection between people is becoming increasingly cold, even if it's siblings. Your family had a child? Oh, okay, just take a photo and send it to me. If I can take a look, that's already pretty good. It might be like this. Regardless, performing some virtuous deeds, this is indeed very good. If they came with a positive karmic connection, then it's very good. If they came with a negative karmic connection, it can also be transformed. In the past, some ancient great masters said that in our families, those family members, some came to repay kindness, some came to repay grievances, some came to collect debts, some came to repay debts. In any family, there are these four types of people. Some may have come to be grateful and repay kindness. Some came to repay grievances, just like what Arhat Katyayana saw in the past. Among people, it's the same between spouses. Perhaps some are collecting debts, some are repaying debts. So generally when the relationship isn't good, they all attribute it to past lives and push it to past life matters. When the relationship is good, it's about this present life. Many householders are like this. Regardless, it's the same with having children. Here, we'll discuss newborn children. The Buddha told Bodhisattva universally vast, if sentient beings of the future, on every month's first day, 8th, 14th, 15th, 18th, 23rd, and 24th, and also the 28th, 29th, and 30th day, altogether there are 10 observance days. These 10 observance days are called the days when wrongdoings are assembled. On that day, the severity of karmic offenses will be determined. These are rather special days. Of course, this explanation can be understood in two ways, because these 10 days of each month are still rather special days. According to the perspective of certain Buddhist sutras, on that day there are 10 kinds of celestial deities, including, as mentioned in the 10 observance days of Ksitigarbha, there are 10 kinds of celestial beings who descend to the human realm and then make judgments. They review the cases of negative karma and virtuous karma. After reviewing, they submit them to the four heavenly kings. Through the continuous judgment and weighing by the Lord of Death, they determine the severity of these wrongdoings and virtues. Actually, this is a kind of judgment method in our human world. In the human world, generally, after creating wrongdoings at a fixed time, through judges, to use our modern language, the procuratorate and courts, they conduct reviews and finally make them suffer in prison. So why do Buddhist sutras have such descriptions? Actually, these wrongdoings in Buddhist sutras, according to the karmic manifestation of sentient beings, they will appear. Is there truly a judge in the actual Bardo realm, a black building like a people's court, and a prosecutor wearing a special hat? In that case, it may not necessarily exist, but are sentient beings' habits and customs in the human world? When you are sentenced, indeed there is layer upon layer. It was like this in ancient times, and it's like this now. Every country has it. If there is such karmic force in the manifestation of our karmic experience, you can feel like at that time yamas, hell gods, are sentencing you, like they are currently reviewing your case. After reviewing, you fail. For example, when we have nightmares, sometimes for no reason at all, you feel like you're falling into hell. Sometimes it seems like there are layers, and finally you truly fall into hell. So in Buddhist sutras, some are based on the karmic manifestations of sentient beings, which are also very much related to their habitual tendencies. So now, I often think this way. If our current sentient beings were to fall into hell, certainly many manifestations in hell wouldn't necessarily be like ancient punishments or ancient phenomena, including perhaps at that time, the hell gods of Yama would also be holding a computer in front. Because our current life is related to computers, phones, and many other things. At this time, sentient beings will manifest it. Just like when we have nightmares, it's the same in hell. In the past, when we didn't have phones or computers, there was probably no connection with computers and phones. Now we have these during the day, plus during the day we know about judges in the human world and sentencing in the human world, prisons and these things. So when our current sentient beings die, there may be a lot of connection with current sentencing. It will be particularly related. So on this point, some people think this might be a folk saying. How could hell be like this? Actually, regarding hell, if we speak from the ultimate perspective, it is the karmic force of our sentient beings. The karmic force of sentient beings, when separated from reality, after separation, according to your karmic force, such suffering will immediately manifest. So regarding this issue, I think some people may need to think about it. Here, there is some determination of the severity of wrongdoings. These indeed will also be like this. And these times are also rather special. When we taught finding rest in the nature of mind before, we also mentioned the 15th and 30th of each month, the 8th, 15th, and 25th. I remember there's also the 29th, right? About 6 time periods are said to be days when dakas and dakinis gather. At this time, performing virtuous deeds and accumulating merit is especially auspicious. Your own channels, winds, and essence drops also gather together in dependent arising. These are rather special days. So some people say in your Tibetan Buddhism, today is some chalk offering day, tomorrow is some such and such day. Why is it like this? Actually, in Han Buddhism, there are also such different observance days. For example, the 8th or the 10th. They all have rather special days. At that time, the omniscient Longchenpa also said that, for example, on the 10th day, the daytime is the day when dakinis gather. The evening of the 25th is also a day when dakinis gather. At that time, performing chalk offerings is especially auspicious. He also said this. So here, it also says this. These 10 observance days are also special days. So the sentient beings of Jambudvipa, the acts and thoughts of the beings of Jambudvipa are invariably karma and wrongdoing. This teaching is also very famous. Every great master often says, we in Jambudvipa suffer so much. In every movement and thought, all is karma, all is wrongdoing. Everyone is still very much like that. How much more so when they indulgently kill, steal, engage in sexual misconduct, and tell lies, hundreds and thousands of wrongdoings. If they can, on the 10 observance days, what we discussed before, on the 10 observance days, in front of the images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, if they can read the Ksitigarbha Sutra once, then within 100 yojanas to the east, west, south, and north, there will not be any disasters. If we recite sutras and chant, then within the entire 100 yojanas in all directions, sometimes when we chant to the Dharma protectors or recite sutras actually, occasionally doing this is still very necessary. For example, how many days in a year? Such recitation is still very necessary. Yes, here one thing discussed is the special, or like chalk offering days just now, the 10 observance days of Ksitigarbha. At this time, reciting this sutra is very important. Within the entire 100 yojanas, spirits and ghosts will not create calamities. Also, didn't we just talk about 7 days? This is also very important. Because regarding 7 days, perhaps some people wonder, why does Buddhism often mention 7 days? I think that the number 7 for the entire world is probably a rather special day, because when doing anything, probably within 7 days, everything can be completed. This is also a kind of dependent arising, including now 1 week is 7 days. Often when we decide on something, we complete it within 1 week or complete it within 2 weeks. Including Christianity and many other religions, it's also like this. Not only this sutra, but in others, including in the Amitabha Sutra, whether for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, all the way to, or for 7 days, with single-minded focus reciting Buddha Amitabha's name, then at the time of death, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will appear, and this person will be reborn in the Pure Land. So, according to the perspective of the Pure Land school, it is also like this. Therefore, in the Han regions, we also do meditation retreats of 7 days. Here, we just mentioned several periods of 7 days as well. 7 days also have a special dependent arising. In our Larungar, for example, the Ksitigarbha Dharma Assembly is also mainly 7 days. The Vajrasattva Dharma Assembly is also 7 days. And the Sukhavati Dharma Assembly is also 7 days. Originally, at the beginning, the Vidyadhara Dharma Assembly was also 7 days. Later, His Holiness said, for us to gain freedom over our body and mind, especially for spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings, we need to practice magnetizing activity with great power. Practicing for 7 days is not enough. We need to practice for 14 days. So this is why the practice of the sadhana of the 9 deities of Avalokiteshvara requires 14 days. This is also the reason. In Tibetan regions, generally speaking, for example, doing the Vajrakilaya Drupchen, the Drupakagya Drupchen, or the Mahakala Drupchen, these Drupchens, Dharma assemblies where monastics recite, are basically 3 days or 7 days. So in the future, for our individual practice or individual meditation, it's best if it's too short, 3 days. If it's a 7-day retreat, 7 days of recitation, you single-mindedly recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra for 7 days. In Han Buddhism, there are often medicine Buddha retreats of 7 days and meditation retreats of 7 days. For the Avatamsaka, sometimes they do 3 sets of 7, which is 21 days. There is also this. Reciting Amitabha is also like this. So reciting the Medicine Buddha Sutra also involves retreats of 7 days. So 7 days, there is also a rather special reason for this. A special kind of dependent arising is also in this, therefore for our individual practice and these things. There are still different karmic connections. Everyone should also consider these principles. I think sometimes we need to contemplate them. Many great masters of the past, what they did was very much in accordance with Dharma, not like some of our people nowadays, that they themselves follow their discriminative thinking and imagination. Such people are truly not spreading the Dharma. They should be destroying the Dharma, ruining the Buddha Dharma. So for some of us, including some Dharma teachers, if they don't understand the Dharma well, I suggest it's best not to speak nonsense. There's no need. In the past, some. Now we don't have any organization. But in the past, sometimes there were some Dharma teachers, not really Dharma teachers, but temporarily helping everyone with guidance like that. Later, some people privately required them to write confidentiality agreements. Why did they need confidentiality? Because they knew what they taught was not in accordance with Dharma, so they were afraid others would find out. Of course, the more you keep it secret, the more others will know. In the end, they were engaged in seeking fame and profit, but actually they won't succeed either. So in this world, some people don't possess even the basic Buddhist principles, nor do they have the basic respect for the Guru and 3 jewels, yet they still pretend to be something or other. At the beginning, perhaps some individuals, because of the karmic connection when you first came, there may be some, but actually this kind of thing won't succeed either. Therefore, I think this kind of behavior, whether spreading the Dharma or so-called transmitting the Dharma, it truly misleads students. It has no meaning. So regarding these principles, at the very least, one should comprehend these basic principles. Otherwise, it has no meaning. Just now, we talked about doing this in front of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image. Then there will be no calamities, and moreover, in the household where this sutra is recited, whether elders or youngsters, now and in future hundreds of thousands of years, their family members will never fall into the 3 lower realms. If they can, on the 10 observance days, every time do this, on the 10 observance days, every single day is like this, if they can recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra once. First of all, in this household, there will not be any serious diseases nor untimely death, and no unpleasant matters will occur at all. Moreover, the entire provision of clothing and food will be abundant and complete, well fed and well clothed. All wealth will be fulfilled as wished. There will be no need for any diligent effort. Naturally, it will come rolling in, so the merit of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is inconceivable. Therefore, universally vast, you should know that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has such inexpressible hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions of instances of great awesome spiritual power, such matters of benefiting beings. The sentient beings of Jambudvipa have great karmic connections with this great being, Ksitigarbha. Actually, among the 8 great bodhisattvas, each bodhisattva has karmic connections with the sentient beings of Jambudvipa, but especially Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has very strong karmic connections with each of us sentient beings. Many people indeed have strong faith in Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Because the appearance of Buddhas in this world is also for a great purpose. These bodhisattvas, for us, especially for sentient beings in this present world, have very strong karmic connections. So for all of us who have come to this human realm, to encounter these spiritual guides, to encounter these wish-fulfilling jewels, this is truly inconceivable. We ourselves should not give up such opportunities. So, if sentient beings hear Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, see Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's form, or even hear 3 words of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, for example, Ksitigarbha Sutra or Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, these 3 words, or 5 words, or 1 verse, or 1 sentence, then all of these in the present, in this present life, they will obtain supremely wonderful peace and happiness. In future lives, for hundreds of thousands of myriads of lives, they will always have dignified appearance and noble form, and be born in noble families. Everyone in the human world would aspire to this. in this present life to be completely happy and joyful without encountering misfortune, peaceful and safe, everything happy, healthy and prosperous, and even life after life, to be reborn in noble families, or to have an extremely, extremely dignified physical appearance. Yesterday, quite late when I went home, there was a student waiting at my door. He told me about his entire family situation. I was thinking, why is this human world so unfair? Some are extremely, extremely wealthy. They have everything. Their money can never be spent. Everything is wasted and squandered in luxury. But some, even for the basics like studying and living, it's very difficult. So in our human world, it's not that the human world is unfair. The karma we created is different. So you see here, it also says that if we hear Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, see his holy image, or even the entire Sutra text, or certain individual sentences or chapters within it, if we recite this and generate faith, this merit for our life after life is also inconceivable. At this time, Bodhisattva, universally vast, having heard the Tathagata praise Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, knelt on one knee and joined his palms, according to the Indian custom. The Indian single knee prostration, just like this, paying homage, he joined his palms and said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, for a long time I have known that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has such inconceivable power of merit and power of great vows. I already knew this long ago. I am asking while already knowing." Earlier, it was Bodhisattva Samantabhadra he also knew. He said, "I also know about the suffering of the 3 lower realms, but I'm asking for the sake of these sentient beings." And so Buddha Shakyamuni is very kind. Otherwise, if it were me, I'd say, "You already know. You shouldn't have asked me." He said, "I already knew long ago." In the previous chapter, Bodhisattva Samantabhadra also knew. Bodhisattva, universally vast, also knew. Those bodhisattvas all ask questions for the sake of sentient beings. It was originally like this, but generally, when we are in schools or other places asking questions, it seems they're not asking for the sake of sentient beings. They themselves are confused and asking. He said, "I already knew long ago about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's power of vows, but so that these sentient beings can know the benefits, so they can obtain benefits and understand these principles. Therefore, I asked the Tathagata, after you answered in this way, we will certainly receive it most respectfully and joyfully." The entire preceding process has been explained. Finally, a simple question was asked. "World-honored one, in that case, how should this sutra be named? How should we propagate and transmit it in the future?" The Buddha told him, "The name of this sutra is very simple. There are only 3 different names. The first is the original vows of Ksitigarbha, because here, Ksitigarbha, Bodhisattva's vows, his fundamental vows, are explained in a particularly supreme way, so it's called the original vows of Ksitigarbha. What's generally used now is the original vows of Ksitigarbha. When I translated it, I also used the original vows of Ksitigarbha. It can also be named the original practices of Ksitigarbha because Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva not only made vows, but actually his Bodhisattva conduct, the conduct of not attaining Buddhahood until the hells are empty. We don't just make a vow without acting on it. He not only made vows, but his entire great Bodhisattva conduct is explained very supremely, so it can also be called the original practices of Ksitigarbha. It can also be called the power of the original vows of Ksitigarbha. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva originally made vow commitments, and after making these vow commitments, he has a special power. Perhaps we made vows and also do some things, but whether we truly have the power to liberate sentient beings, such spiritual power, whether we have it is hard to say. But here, indeed, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has such particularly supreme spiritual power. Whether those who pray to him or those who pay homage to him, everyone will obtain such power. So it can also be called the power of the original vows of Ksitigarbha. This is why the name is called this. We just discussed it. Then how should it be propagated? Because this Bodhisattva, throughout the long kalpas, has made great vows to benefit sentient beings. Therefore, all of you should propagate it according to his vows. What does propagate according to his vows mean? Because life after life, he has always been for benefiting innumerable sentient beings. So when you want to propagate, you don't need to think, in the future, I may become very famous. I'll earn lots and lots of money. I want to find some adorable person, or I want to obtain a particularly satisfying job. Of course, this is also acceptable, and this is a worldly way of making aspirations. But what's more important? However Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva benefits sentient beings, I will also benefit sentient beings in this way. Make aspirations with such a mind. That is the best kind of Dharma propagation. In the future, if we want to propagate the Ksitigarbha Sutra and the Ksitigarbha practice, how should we propagate it? Buddha Shakyamuni has explained it very clearly to us. Because he has, throughout the long kalpas, made vows to benefit sentient beings. It's not for one's own health, one's own happiness, one's own sleeping well at night or eating breakfast well. It's not aspirations in these areas. What are his vows? As long as I can benefit sentient beings, I can do anything. Even if it means going to hell, I'm willing. His vows are like this. So in the future, when we propagate these vows, you see, Universally Vast asked very well, how should we propagate this? Just as Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva benefits sentient beings, you should propagate with this same mind. In this way, this is very pure and very powerful. So we should all also make aspirations. Throughout our remaining lifetime and even life after life, we will all benefit sentient beings through the Ksitigarbha practice. Then how should we propagate it? However Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva propagates the Dharma and benefits sentient beings, we also benefit sentient beings relying on this method. This is all very good. After saying this, it seems that the other day the four heavenly kings all left weeping. Bodhisattva Universally Vast left with palms joined respectfully, paying homage and withdrawing, right? I don't know what happened to the four heavenly kings. Okay, we've finished this chapter today. Tomorrow we still have class. Tomorrow we should have class.
Kirgana jirano chupai chupun solen drasya bandangara badna sadarda bandangara badna sada bandangara badna sadarda